I love it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the USL Show, the show to talk about the biggest league in the world, the USL, as Indy is having a party in Kennesaw, Georgia. To talk all about that, we have John right beside us. Before we get too far into it, we want to thank our wonderful, beautiful patrons. John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Aaron J, Christopher Cohn, Harry Austin, John Fuller, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Rian Lacara, Tim Knox, NF Reg 30, MOS, and Kunal Patel. Thank you guys so much for supporting us once again. Makes it all possible. So we really do appreciate you. And we want to thank our wonderful sponsors who are presenting this episode, Goals.tv. Check out Goals.tv. If you want to get caught up with all the latest soccer stuff, they have a lot of stuff going on with USL League 2 and the W League. So that's a lot of good interviews there, stuff that you should definitely check out. They also just have some good USL championship content. They get all the highlights uploaded there. Plus, we have FB Ref races, which a new episode should be dropping hopefully on Friday for one of those. But listen, I have talked for 2 minutes, and that's 2 minutes too long to not talk about the Indy 11. John, baby, how you doing?
I have not been this passionate, this happy watching a soccer game in I don't know how long. Indy going into Atlanta, not only like taking the fight to Atlanta for that first half, but seeing the game out defensively brilliantly for the second half. I know they conceded at the end. Who cares? Massive day for the club, massive statement, just to kind of cap off this run that they've had since the whole stadium fiasco. So loving every second of it.
I mean, we kind of talked about the whole stadium fiasco. Indy looks unbeatable since, all this has happened. So maybe every mayor should just come out with a fake MLS announcement to really spur on the team, just to see what happens. Why not? That always goes down well, right? Oh, man. Alan, how are you doing, man?
Doing all right. I do want to point out that Indy 11 is unbeatable unless I lock them in, and then they go ahead and lose. So, sorry, Indy 11, for locking you to win when you don't. But yeah, it's super exciting to see a club. Sacramento went on that run last year, and they could go on another run this year. They're up against Seattle. And then you have New Mexico United against LAFC, which is kind of a fun matchup. But it's really nice to see clubs like Indy 11 who have been kind of around. And I think people want them to be successful because they were, they had playoff lines for a minute, and I think there's a contingent of folks who want to see them be successful. So it's nice to see them putting together a good run.
Ryan?
I mean, this is all setting up for us to have Indy 11 winning the 2026 Club World Cup against Real Madrid. I mean, Mbappe, Bellingham, they cannot do it on a pitch in Indianapolis.
Confirmed. Hey, listen, we talked to former Mbappe teammate Hugo Faru a few weeks ago, where, despite me using it for clickbait, has corrected me several times and said I've never played with him, and I'm like, that's not good for the clickbait. You were there at the same time as him. Forget about levels. You were there. That's a teammate. You were both on contract. So, listen, I'm really stoked for Indy for obvious reasons. I almost made the trip out. I thought about it. I had a real consideration of that's not too far. And then I thought about, I have to drive to Atlanta. Don't really want to do that on a Tuesday night. Not really feeling it. But I'm so stoked. I outed myself, obviously, as being the the Twitter admin because I did not realize that I was under the USL show account when I asked about the Bluey Tifo, because I absolutely love the Bluey Tifo. Makes my heart happy. If you haven't seen it, guy, can't remember his name now off the top of my head. Someone please tell me. Takes a 2-pole of Bluey and like it's like the whole family and stuff just saying hooray, and it just makes the soul happy. And I like that. And when I found out it was not in Atlanta, bummed me out big time.
Between that and Diego Luna rolling up to his last game in a Bluey hoodie, it's kind of Bluey takeover of USL adjacent thing.
I kind of want to just talk about Luna real fast. I think every single person who watched him in the USL is absolutely floored by the whole him not being on the Olympic squad. I know a lot of MLS fans saw what he did immediately afterward, getting the hat trick of assist plus a goal. But like that was just kind of stuff that he was doing all the time anyway, and that is mind numbing that he was not included.
I mean, the situation clearly also that they wanted him to be an alternate, which means he's just kind of sitting around not doing anything for a month when he could be getting valuable game minutes in MLS. What a no-brainer for him to say no when he's arguably one of the best players in the entire pool that was eligible. I mean, it's a crazy decision to see from US soccer, but pretty much par for the course given everything that's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. soccer has been having a moment as of late, so.
I mean, he can go play for the Mexican National Olympic. Oh.
I mean, there's a part of me that's like kind of happy he did it because this is so dumb. This does not matter, but you know, the best players in MLS right now are not there because they're all in Copa America still. You know, that's just kind of how this works. International tournament goes on, team or league doesn't take an international break, best players are gone, right? What a good time to stat pad if you're Diego Luna too. Just a little bit.
He's going to come back and Messi's going to find himself trailing in the Golden Boot race.
Look, before we go full on Messi talk, I should put that in the title of this. That could have been perfect clickbait. Messi. There, we got more views. Congrats, boys. You know,
speaking of, real quick, I do one Messi tweet and it gets 6 times the views and likes of anything I've ever tweeted in my life. Like, I hate that that's just a buzzword on the internet.
Yeah. Did someone say Golden Boot? I might have seen something about Charleston this last week. I don't want to talk about it though. I don't want to discuss it. Anyway, let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes, and I want to start off with this kind of head on. John, you put out a tweet, and I've been wanting to talk about this really for the last 2 months, but I've been holding off, saying that surely things can turn around. But unless they're taking Jaeger bombs, Lexington is awful. Absolutely horrendous. They got dog walked by Omaha, which Omaha is a fantastic team. This is not me saying that Omaha is not good enough to 4-1 them. They are a fantastic team this year. They look like they are one of the top 1-2 teams in the league, depending on however you want to rank them. But considering the talent that Lexington has, considering just the hype that was surrounding them this year, I mean, they've had the major hype train to come into the season, and then basically the same day, I think it was the same day, where you have Khalid go down to Miami, score a goal for the Miami FC, a team above in the championship, while you are struggling to create anything. I mean, it is just bad times in the Bluegrass State.
I think the thing with Lexington, like you look at them within League One play, they've not won a game outright since March. And even then, 4 days later after that win was the day they got upset by Vermont Green. So they've literally like had no joy at all in the league context. The Jägermeister Cup has been better for them, but like you look at the 1-0 win over Greenville where they score in the second minute, proceed to get outshot by 20 shots thereafter. That's luck. The process at every step for Lexington has been so poor in terms of, I mean, I think, Kaylor, you and I, not to sniff our own farts here, but we kind of sniffed it out immediately that this roster construction wasn't right from the get-go relative to a manager in Darren Powell who's very conservative and a squad that was almost all strikers and all center backs with very little balance that was proven in between them. You saw that play out in action where the 4-4-2 consistently was slow in possession, couldn't figure out their spacing, pretty prone to mistakes at the back. We've seen this team grow a little bit. Like they moved into a back five in some of their recent matches. And the 4-0 in Omaha kind of captures how well that worked out for them. And I know in the Omaha game, like Corrales couldn't start. Cameron Lancaster was out of that one. But the level of disconnect from a team that's been together for months now, a team that Powell has had a heck of a lot of time to kind of instill a philosophy into, that they looked so lost, that they looked so devoid of an identity. I think that's a real concern for the Lexington project going forward, honestly.
I guess for me, the biggest thing, and you know, I have my reservations from the beginning, like we kind of talked about, and the biggest part to me here is Powell. And you know, forget his Inter Miami 2 days, right? The two teams are kind of what they are. And you can kind of say the same thing for the Palace. I think it was U21s that he was at. But if you go and look into how he did there at the Palace U23s, which yes, they are supposed to be just growing players and teaching them how to play for the Palace system. As someone who, you know, has watched Palace for a long time, I've never seen Crystal Palace go with a 5-back. Ever. Never have I seen them do that, which tells me they gave him a lot of, you know, room to say, hey, you create your own thing. You raise players the way that you see them to win games, and that's what you focus on. And wherever he has gone has followed this super conservative, super passive, you know, we'll beat them on the break kind of team. And they spent too much money to be a counterattacking team. You can sit there and say, well, San Antonio, like 3 years ago now, San Antonio had one of the best midfields that this league has ever seen. Lexington is thin, and it just does not look like it's going to get any better at all.
I mean, it's going so well in Lexington that you click on their main website, and I think someone pointed this out. It's like all Super League news. Like it's Super League on their website. Like I think they even know. Yeah, I think they even know that maybe there's not a lot to be happy about with the men's team. And I think that just kind of speaks volume to like even they're aware. So they're like, I mean, at this point of the season, what do you do? Do you like try to bring somebody new in? You're basically battling for relegation here, right? Like you're going to move down to League Two, maybe. Oh, that doesn't exist. Dang. Yeah. So I think like
Tucson would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, I think even some of the admin there know that things aren't great, and they're trying to hype up some of the more positive news around the Super League team, which is probably a smart thing to do if you're Lexington. Like, hey, look over there, but yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Well, it's interesting relative to the talk that Lexington was kind of like spending as a ramp up to at least considering like, could we bid for the championship? And the fact that it went so awry this season where almost every decision has just been or had the opposite effect of what was intended is quite odd to see. Like in this Omaha game in particular, where you've got a midfield three where Isaac Cano, who's like a forward on loan from Lou City, and Ates Diouf, who was your best striker last season, are somehow like 2/3 of the midfield trio. what are we doing? I don't know. It's just very bizarre to kind of see how this club has floundered in ways that we didn't quite expect.
And especially from our preseason predictions, we were at least the voted on audience predictions that we had were all fairly high on Lexington. Yeah. We tout Cameron Lancaster coming in. If you look at the number of shots Lexington have taken this year, that's 77 shots on the year, the fewest of anyone currently in League One, the only team still in double digits. And honestly, if you compare it to who has the most taken shots on the season, Liam McKinnon of Greenville, he has 45% of the shots that Lexington has taken this year alone.
And this is obviously going to kind of show, obviously Liam McKinnon is ridiculously good. If anybody has watched him knows that he is just a freak of nature. I also think that Greenville back to front has more continuity. Our good friend Brandon Mays, you can find him League One Review, and other people like League One Updater Alex have all kind of talked about this. Of Lexington doesn't press, so they aren't trying to force counterattacks. They aren't trying to possess the ball, so they're not trying to whittle down a team. They're literally just sitting back. They're not trying to do anything to get the ball. They're just hoping the ball lands at their feet and then lump it long. And we're going to deal with the call later today. And I'm going to kind of precursor it a little bit. It's kind of a continuation of a conversation we had last week. I feel like you can look at some of the issues that Pittsburgh is having, and the issues that Lexington are having. And I think there's a lot more overlap there than we would realize.
I think the difference is that Pittsburgh tends to be a rather aggressive pressing team. They're just like inept in the final third and can't finish. Lexington doesn't even have that first step of occasionally winning the ball in a dangerous area or controlling the territory of the pitch. Like, they're set up to absorb and then have absolutely no structure to do anything after that. I'm being too mean, of course, but like, come on.
Well, that's what happens when you have preseason expectations, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you come in and have expectations, I think another thing is that when Coach Sockley, who is the director of football there, was the manager, it was very positive football, right? They were shipping goals. They were giving away a lot of goals. It was, it was a Mall Knight is back there. He got us. It's no big deal. Almost the Charlotte way of thinking of Austin Pack back there somewhere. We're just going to kind of send everything and pray. And that's what they did last year. And for them to go from so forward thinking, so front foot, to packing the box and praying is bizarre. And I just can't help but wonder if this is about to be an insane statement. So just strike this from the record if I have to. Of they got desperate, or Darren Powell lied about him being able to change his system.
I bet he has a very nice PowerPoint presentation that he's hauling out at these meetings.
I mean, Lexington has only led in regular season matches, so no Jägermeister Cups. They've only led for 62 minutes all year.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
I'm going to send you on a homework assignment, Ryan. Can you compare that to our next topic in Phoenix? Because Phoenix is down bad. And yes, we know that they just fired their coach, and then come out and they scored a goal, which is frankly better than I thought they were going to do. But Armanakis and Gallardo aren't there, and just kind of blanket statement of they aren't here right now, which is not what you want to hear at all. And they get manhandled by a San Antonio team that I think even San Antonio teams will look at the way they played and say, we didn't play that well. And it's bad in Phoenix. The vibes are bad everywhere. And we had this full conversation about front office and all that kind of stuff. I did not expect it to look this bad.
I think I want to push back about the on-field aspect. Like, I thought they were pretty much in that game, especially coming out of the second half against San Antonio. How much that matters against a San Antonio team that's been quite poor in their own right is probably the bigger question. But you're right to call out Gallardo and Armanacas. Erickson Gallardo has now been sold to a club in Venezuela. Like, he's gone. From what I'm hearing, and this is not like a formal report, like, things are going to be dicey on the Panos front as well. That could be the move that really tips Phoenix fans over the edge from like being very mad into, we just sold our best player because of crazy things happening behind the scenes. Like, heads need to roll. I don't know what the next step for this club is, honestly. Like, is there going to have to be a sacrificial lamb in terms of Bobby Doyle or Brandon McCarthy? I think that seems harsh, but Phoenix fans are in this place where they need something to placate them and show that their solidarity between the front office and between the will of the supporters. Wins might not be enough to patch over this, even if they start coming, which is somewhat doubtful.
I think one thing you kind of talk about with like the Bobby and Brandon part of this, right? And Alan, you had your experience with Loyal, who had a front office that was very forward facing, that was willing to get on a camera anytime that they needed. They were never afraid to sit down and talk to anybody. And it was awesome. Phoenix fans have the same thing. And I think what's happening right now is showing why most teams don't do that, because unfortunately they gave themselves a face and they also gave themselves a name, and now they're being dragged through the mud, and like they are really being dragged. That I think if they just kind of hid behind the scenes and didn't really say too much, to kind of hid, to themselves, I wonder if it would be as vitriol towards them personally.
Yeah, I think it's what made Phoenix very interesting when I first kind of stumbled on USL, is how engaging the team was with people on the internet, with people in general. Like, they were very open, willing to, like, admin of Twitter, Sam, I think Sam was his name.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sam.
Yeah. It was very much like this welcoming thing. Come check it out. Like, if you're in town, come check it out. And it was a very like welcoming, very nice vibe. It felt like they had an identity as a team, not just like, I'm not talking about on the pitch. I'm talking about mostly off the pitch stuff. And I think what I'm seeing from a lot of Phoenix fans is that kind of a lack of that off the field identity of like who we are as a club. And I think Phoenix is a little bit spoiled in that they had such a long run of like really engaging front office, really forward facing front office, and success on the pitch, that when things aren't going well on the pitch and people tend to like not want to engage, I think that the fans want kind of a return to what is the soul of this franchise, as far as what the club itself, not like, oh, we play an attacking style of football. It's, I would disagree with Phoenix. I think there's an element of welcomeness if you're a neutral, if you're not a fan of another team, as a fan of another team, if that makes sense, as kind of a neutral, as a, maybe someone who talks about the league, as a visiting fan. Yeah, it's not very welcoming. But that's kind of the culture, right? That's the culture that they created. They lean into it last year with like essentially eliminating a franchise again, and this kind of evil empire thing. Like, they just want to they want to have that soul, whatever that soul is. It's good guy, bad guy, doesn't matter. Like, they just want that back. And I think right now Phoenix is a little bit of a victim of their own success in some ways. And this is, I think, maybe why a team like Lou City, team like Tampa Bay, are celebrated as much is because they can continually reinvent themselves and still have that kind of culture. And sure, if you want to call it a culture of hate, I'm not here to argue that. I was very taken by Phoenix as a franchise, as like how they were run, and felt very much like they want to invite people to come out and check out a game. They had an identity. Whether or not you agree with that identity is something different. Yes, they had a bump in the road with a certain player, but I think fans in general were like, that's not acceptable to us either. And they were very vocal about that, outward facing as well. I mean, it's kind of a shame what's happening in Phoenix as far as like USL is better when Phoenix is playing the bad guy and are successful. You need a villain, right? A good guy can't be a good guy without a good villain. And Phoenix was a really good villain. And right now they're kind of a wounded villain, and it's not really that fun for anybody. So that's kind of how I think about it. Yeah, they're calling for somebody's head. And I think with Phoenix, it's, you better be in the top, you better be winning, or someone needs to pay for it. And it's been the coach in the past, but once you fire a coach, then what? Like, you've already ripped that cord. It's not changing. So maybe it is a front office person. Maybe it is a new voice needs to come in and reimagine what Phoenix is. Like we think about back to like the dollar beer night, the super long win streak, and like they had those moments because there was a buzz about that team. And so they just need to rediscover it. And I think the USL is better when Phoenix is what Phoenix is and kind of embraces that again.
Ryan, you said you had the stat?
Yeah, I mean, what's surprising with Phoenix through this entire period is if you've read through John's USL Tactics Substack earlier today, #plug, they're one of 6 teams who have grown their attendance off of 2023, and they're currently the 7th highest attended team in the league. So there's still growth within the team. There's still fans that are showing up with this team, and it shows that there's a passionate fan base that are there behind it. But what we've seen from Phoenix this year just isn't used to the Phoenix that we're typically used to seeing. They've led for just 207 minutes all year, and that's about the same amount of time it takes to watch the original theatrical release of Return of the King. It's like just not the Phoenix Rising team that you're used to, and it's for a fan base that has a very high expectation of what a team can and should be doing, especially coming off of a year where they just won the Cup, and you're looking at 2 teams that are very good in the Western Conference in Sacramento and their neighbors in New Mexico doing very well.
They're throwing the championship rings into Mount Doom.
I was gonna guess Stances with Wolves or something like that. But that's, I mean, and I think to the other side of it, there is a little bit of like the Schadenfreude of like, yeah, this is what they get for being. And so there is a little bit about, I'm sure people are hate watching and loving every minute of it. I'm sure there are fellow San Diegans who are enjoying every moment of the demise. But I think like Orange County went through this after they won a championship where they really kind of struggled to refine that form. And to go back again, the teams that do it year in, year out, like a Lou City, who's like in the Eastern Conference Finals, like as an automatic, I think it's even more impressive that they are able to do that, because it is really hard in this league to be consistent year in, year out. And maybe it's hey, once you win the championship, people are going to come after your players because they can, and you're going to lose a little bit here, a little bit there, and you lose a key player, and that's all it really takes. I think with USL, the margins are so slim between great and good.
Something that you kind of mentioned, Alan, is that Phoenix as the heel, everybody likes it, and then nobody wants to say it because they hate them, but that's the point of a good heel, right? You also mentioned that, people will take their players when they're really good and stuff like that. To take the words out of the voice of Legion matches, Blake Gardner, something that he said to me is the USL is one of the most incestuous leagues in the world. These players stay in this league and they get swapped around like crazy, right? They stay here, which means everybody hears stories about somebody. Or, you go from New Mexico to, I don't know, like Pittsburgh, or you go from Phoenix to, to wherever, to Birmingham or whatever you want, whatever example you want to say. And you hear stories about teams, right? There's a reason why AJ Cochran is mock tweeting, mentality monsters, with San Antonio and other players throughout the year will sit there and say mentality monsters. Fans throw it in San Antonio's face all the time because they were easy to hate, because they were really good. And the league was fun when you could hate San Antonio. There was a weird post that happened recently in League Two where Vermont Green was called Social Media FC by an opposing player after they swept them. Funny, and people can say all the reasons why they're not and how they have a real following, but which shows you they have a good following, which makes them easy to hate. It's an easy chip on the shoulder because athletes are competitive people, and human beings, the fans, are also competitive. It's why we watch competitive sports, right? Having a good heel in the league, which Phoenix is year in, year out, that's what they do. They're fun. And when they're not playing well, not only are Phoenix fans sad because they're not playing well, the league is finally having their moment of laughing at their demise. And they don't have anything to back it up and say, screw you, we have this, we have that. I'm sure they have their championship, but because of the way it kind of happened, it's kind of hard to really boast the ring too much, if you will. So that's just kind of how the league works, and that's just kind of where we are. Going from like broken to being very real. You mentioned Lou City. Oakland don't give an F. I'm super excited because tomorrow, just for a little bit, I am talking to not the step coach, but the coach that stepped up, Coach Gavin from Oakland. And thank you, John. And listen, they're rolling, man. Defensively, they look awesome. And they are just creating so many chances, and they are just stifling all attacks. I am loving this Oakland team.
Yeah, I mean, that was a game against Lou City where it kind of felt like classic Lou City for the first half. And the real credit has to go to the Roots defense there, where Camden Riley and Naveal Hackshaw stood on their heads. And I mean, Riley is a guy who I think everybody across the league loves. To see him do what he's doing for the Roots, whether it's at center back, whether he's called upon in the pivot, is amazing. And then in that second half, Oakland sticks to the game plan. They stick to the fact that they've moved Johnny Rodriguez to this right wing role where he's often kind of a target man in the channel, which paid off against Orange County and really challenged Lou City in the way that they want to push their wingbacks up. Like, naturally, because those players are high, they're vacating space in behind. Rodriguez knew how to fill that, knew how to flick headers on, put Oakland into the final third and create dangerous opportunities, and it paid off for them. I think what's so impressive is that Glinton is trusting the squad to execute a game plan. He's picked a unit, but he's willing to sub in options. He understands the depth that's innate to the roster Oakland has put together. I just love seeing how this team really feels for the first time like a legit threat in the West.
I was just going to say it's because Camden Riley came into the squad. Like, to watch, like, I would encourage people to go back to like footage from like 2-3 seasons ago. I guess it was 2 seasons ago. And just see his development is quite crazy. Because to be fair, like, his first season with San Diego, people were like, he's kind of a liability. He's, a little bit sloppy with the ball. He's not quite a center back. He's not quite a 6. He's kind of like this, not great at everything. He's like this sub guy who you bring in when you need to spell a guy. To watch him be kind of a centerpiece of a club, I think speaks to how hard he works to develop. And, the fact that they also look good in those kits is a bonus. So not only do they look good, but they play well, right? It's like the opposite of me trying to play sports. Is I might like have all the flashy clothes, but I play like garbage. But yeah, I think, Oakland has found something They have some flexibility in lineup options. I think, moving to kind of that 4 in the back. I think they were the 3 at the back earlier in the season, has given them some solidity. And then just, I think the opposite of Phoenix is, I think maybe Oakland is like a team that kind of talks the talk and walks the walk. And so it's really fun to watch them be successful in a Western Conference that I think a lot of people are surprised by who is sitting at the top right now, as far as just, based on past performance. So it'll be interesting to see if they can sustain this the rest of the season. They have a history of sneaking into the playoffs and kind of riding a hot goalkeeper. And so it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain the lead and kind of be that different team of, can we finish as strong as we've been the past couple weeks? What is like 6 wins out of the last 8 or something like that? It is pretty impressive. So it's super exciting. It's in the hot heat of summer that they're playing really hot. And so I'm hoping they can sustain this. Who would have thought Rhode Island versus Oakland? Yeah. It's hard to predict right now because it's like I don't know. Everything is turned on its head right now. So, but it's really exciting to see Oakland playing the way they're playing.
Heck, even a week before the Rhode Island Oakland match is Oakland versus Loudoun, which is still itself a pretty intriguing game as well. But if you look at Oakland's entire season's body of work, what really stood out to me was not only have they beaten Sacramento, they're unbeaten against the current top 4 of the Eastern Conference as well, picking up wins against Louisville, Tampa Bay, and Indy 11. And throughout the season, they've had back-to-back shutout victories as well. The first time they've had that since the middle of last season when they were up against San Diego and Colorado Springs. This is an Oakland team that's really kind of reinvented themselves after the coaching change. And Clinton's really putting on a performance that's basically an interview for the permanent full-time job.
Speaking of Camden Raleigh, you kind of mentioned your, past experience and watching him. There's only one thing I think of when I think of Camden Raleigh, and it literally just happened a few days ago. I love this video that Oakland posted. That's all I think about.
Did you see they did the Gagi cam after the last game?
Yeah.
Gagi Margvelashvili was out injured, so they just gave him a selfie stick after the game and had him clown around on the field. Oakland's social team knows to highlight the personalities because the Roots have plenty of them.
Also, what is his injury? Because hopping over the ad boards and sprinting on the field is not a good look for being out with an injury.
That's a great question.
Bless. All right, let's go ahead and let's get real fast into some voicemails on the night. For these voicemails, we have 2. I want to hit you. That one of them's kind of a continuation of last week. That's going to be the last one. The first one is going to, for me, put me into a bit of a doozy. So be ready for that. Let's see if I can share this without sharing my entire screen. Can I go here? Yes, cool. All right. That's it up. Give me just one moment. Share this tab instead. Come on.
Need some
all right.
muffled music. Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the first one.
Hey guys, big fan of the show. I have a bit of a dilemma here. I'm a fan of multiple USL teams. I don't have a particular favorite, and some of them actually contradict one another. Indy 11 and Louisville City, because I was born in Kentucky. I moved to Indiana for the last 2 decades, so I enjoy both Louisville City and Indy 11. I know on paper that's not supposed to be the case. I was born in Lexington, so I like Lexington Sporting Club for week 1, but can I be a fan of both Indy 11 and Louisville City? Is that allowed in USL soccer fan etiquette? So I look forward to hearing what you guys say. Thank you.
So, good soccer fan etiquette or no?
Can I say like what you like? If you enjoy watching both teams, if you are having fun doing the whole thing, that's great. Yeah, we've got the comment here that you only have to choose during the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. I think that's a good rule. Like, once you get to the rivalry game, whatever your heart is tugging, that's going to decide the issue for you already. Like, if you have a leaning, commit to that. But overall, I think that's kind of the beauty of the USL. Like, outside of Phoenix fans, like we talked about, I think most fan bases are pretty chill with one another. Like, no one's foaming at the mouth rivalry wise. So yeah, go do your thing, enjoy what you want, be chill.
I was accused of being a fan of multiple clubs at one point. Like, I started watching Orange County and started covering that team because they were literally the closest team I had, and was walked into an opportunity to be able to enjoy Orange County. And then San Diego was like, hey, we have a club now. And so it doesn't mean I'm like shouldn't say I wasn't a fan of Orange County anymore. I wanted them to be successful, but I do think there's a difference between like fanatic, like a fan of a club, and like, hey, it would be really cool if this club was successful because I enjoy watching them. I think there's like a difference there, right? There's like levels. Like, you can't be like a supporter of multiple clubs. I'm not even sure you can be like a fan of multiple clubs. I think you can, like, I like watching this team and I would like this team to be successful. And then you pick the one club. And I think, John, you nailed it, is like, when that game comes, who do you really want to win? I think you are a fan of that club. You just also enjoy supporting or like going to watch games, or like it's the closest team. So I'm a Louisville City fan, but I will buy season tickets to Indy 11 because I want to watch USL soccer. Like, I think there's levels here. And I think with fandom, I think it's like, pick a team. If it's, I want clubs to be successful, I think you can have multiple teams to like wish that they do well or enjoy the way the style of club like they play. And, ultimately, like what John said is, don't yuck someone's yum. If you want to go be a fan of multiple clubs, like, you do you, boo. Yeah, gatekeeping. But I think if you're like hardcore, I think people might find that a little etiquette abuse. But, if you want to go watch a bunch of Indy 11 because that's where you live, then go do it. Like, support local soccer, whatever that means.
Real quick, I just want to jump in and say, I think the league getting casual fans is probably the most important thing for it going forward. So, like, yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, every TV screen turned on to a USL match is absolutely helping, whether you're a hardcore fan of one of the teams or you're just tuning in because it's USL, it's on, and it's the biggest league in the world, and you should be watching it anyways. But like, take it from someone who no longer has a team in any USL league. I mean, fingers crossed Wilmington eventually comes back at some point. But as it stands, I don't currently have a team. I still at least want the teams that I at least saw away days to do well. Like, I had a great time when Wilmington would visit in Charleston. The supporters group there, it's lovely. I liked all the people, and I want Charleston to do well. But I've also seen games for Richmond. I've seen games for Colorado Springs, and I have friends across many different other USL teams that I think in general, if you have that personal connection and you have friends who root for the teams, you just want to see your friends happy as well, just as an extenuation of it. And yeah, it may very well be the Battery is the closest, I guess, USL championship team to me. But yeah, at some point, I mean, I just enjoy watching USL, and like John said, just like what you like, and ultimately every screen on this league is something that just raises all ships.
Something from doing the USL show kind of broadly and like really diving into watching like all the games and like across League One and the championship. I still love Birmingham. Birmingham's still my number one, but it's really hard for me to have like these intense, like, I hate this team the way I used to, because there's so many likable players in this league. And much like the NBA has become very player centric, of people just root for players because wherever they go to doesn't matter because they're going to switch teams 3 times. Chances are you just follow the player. I love players in this league. And, if there's a player I like on your team, which there is, I promise you there is a player I love on your team, I have a soft spot for them. It also doesn't hurt, Ben, that my wife is basically a Charleston fan because she's a big fan of raccoons. Unironically, loves raccoons, and Charleston has won her over. So this is a split household.
I will say everyone on this podcast is just waiting until we get Antigua Barracuda back in the league, and then we'll be all diehard fans of Antigua.
Absolutely. Okay. There I need the Bush meme because a third call has hit. So I want to just drop this one really fast. And well, actually, I'm gonna back up to the one that I planned, and then if we have time, we'll hit the third one. If not, we'll hit it next week.
What's up, guys? This is Mike from Mongols. We cover the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. My question for you is, those who are most familiar with the rest of the USL, clearly the Hounds are having scoring issues so far this year. What one player from elsewhere in the league do you think would be the cure for our scoring woes? If Lily was able to bring in one player, who would that be? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work.
Which, if that wasn't a reminder to check out the Mongols, do that.
And hey, real quick, I was on Mongols 2-3 weeks ago. We did a really cool video about like how do you break down a game analytically. Go check out Mongols because they're the best.
I do love the Mongols. This one kind of spurred a different question in mind that I've thought about bringing to the table several times, but I had no idea how to approach it. And yes, Pittsburgh specifically, but are there players on teams that you can think of that you would just want to drop somewhere else and just say you fit perfectly here? Either you're not being used right at your current spot, or you're sitting on the bench in your current spot, or even you're a superstar wherever that you are, but if you went here, you would complete this team. Is there any kind of players that kind of stick out to you guys on that front?
I don't know about a specific fit, but give me Dylan Mares anywhere but Louisville right now, just because he's somebody that I love and he's getting like 0 minutes ever. I think he's somebody who could give you a lot as a number 10 in a lot of places. Maybe not Pittsburgh. Like, I think they've got people who fit that mold with Forbes and Mertz as is. If I'm thinking Riverhound specific, I want somebody who's going to give them a little bit more pace, or a little bit something of a final ball out wide, which is what they don't have right now. I tend to think if they had somebody who could stretch the pitch more effectively and like actually make you respect the fact that they play with a level of width, that could be useful. I mean, name a fullback who does that, and pretty much that would be my pick for them.
I was going to say maybe like Manuel Artiega would look really good on like Phoenix. Dequa would probably be a good pickup for Pittsburgh. Just off the top of my head, those would be a couple of names that I think would make those teams better.
Dylan Mares, man, now that I think about it, I feel like he would work really well in Birmingham, selfishly. I feel like that could be a good fit. I was really playing with that idea because we saw Benefemu, who actually when Augie Williams scored his first goal, they were talking about him in the middle of the broadcast when Augie scored against Atlanta just recently today. And we saw Ben go from these, pretty good player to that was used most of the time. Sometimes he was a sub piece for them, to being all USL show midseason center back, right? Legitimately an all league defender. And I've been just playing with that idea of who could really help out. If we're just going to send people back to where they should be, Bruno Lopet of Birmingham, yes, please send him back home. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of fun conversations, but I think and this is as a fan of a team who is dealing with this, there is a real deal striking shortage in the league right now because you have Pittsburgh and Phoenix and yes, Birmingham, who are all without a number 9. They do not have an out and out striker. And you have other teams that are like that I'm just not really thinking of off the top of my head.
Can I just say Pittsburgh has plenty of number 9s and none of them are good?
Well, I guess that's another issue, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of teams in the USL applying for the same players. All the players that are loan listed by MLS teams, there's probably 4, 5 USL championship, maybe even League One teams fighting tooth and nail for those players. That I feel like it's like this must be just transfer hell if you are a general manager of a USL team right now.
I'm going to specifically come up with a name now. I think Jonathan Ricketts, who's getting absolutely no time in Sacramento, but did it all for RGV at the right back spot. I like his crossing range. Like, he's maybe not a guy who's racking up assists, but he challenges you. He's very good in build up. He gives this team both physicality and a different aspect in possession that I think would play very nicely.
Would you mentioned Mayers earlier?
Yeah.
With the conversation we had about Sterling last week, would he not be a great pairing with Sterling to allow him to hold up the ball and play Mayers through?
I don't mind that. I mean, if Pittsburgh gets him and changes shapes and everything, I'm kind of here for it. That seems like it would work, but Lily won't do it.
This is a good point. Lily ball going to Lily ball. All right. I think we have enough time to listen to this one. Actually, let's hold off for this one. We're going to listen to it first next week because we still have our USL Tactics show to get to. 52 minutes into the show. This is just where we are. So let's get into
moments this
Orange
year.
County.
Orange County has been a one-note team that has verticality over the top and not much else offensively, unable to access the central midfield. And we saw that script flip in a major way against Memphis 901 this weekend. Memphis is a team that presses you in a 4-4-2, pushing up one of their midfielders to form a strike pair that really focuses on denying the midfield. Because of what we got from Ben Norris, who you're seeing here, and what we saw from Ashish Chadha, who was able to return to the central midfield. Suddenly, Orange County had a complement of 3 players with those 2 and Kyle Scott that could cause trouble between the lines. You're going to see a team that's patient, that's getting touches from their central midfielders, and is really trying to goad Memphis out before they strike ahead. This is really what you want to see if you're Orange County trying to exert control in a game. At the same time, there was a real sense of width from side to side, and that was because of Ryan Dogman's return at left back. Dogman was a borderline all-league player for me last season, someone who's been out with injuries much of the time. But the way that he planted seeds of doubt within Memphis's structure, made sure that Orange County could beat you from any side, at any angle, was critical to the overall approach. Here you're going to see them work down the right, opposite of Dogman, and it's Chadha, again, restored to the midfield because Dogman is back, working in, making sure that Memphis overreacts, and then once they've committed, hitting a fullback in the attacking half to make sure that the attack is progressing. This is the sort of complexity and variety that Paul Hardiman will love to see on the sideline on an interim basis for Orange County. And it really kind of defined what they did right against Memphis. Here it's Scott being the star man, but he didn't have to be that for 90 minutes. He had teammates making runs, and once he was activated, he was able to activate that verticality that this team relies on. Still, it wasn't one note. It's what Orange County needs to do if they want to get back into the playoff race down the stretch.
Which
I'll say real quick, Bryce Jamison liked the post on the internet. So that's an endorsement from the brightest prospect in the league.
Someone I've been saying that should be starting since I think the opening week of the season. And, the whole idea of him being a super sub, we've had this conversation many a time, but also think play the kid. He's going to make you a lot of money. Listen, there's a lot of things with Orange County that is to love. Scott not going to England, That was a big headline that came out before this match.
Crawley Town, man. All USL midfield. They won it.
Listen, they needed just one more player from the biggest league in the world to get through the playoff finals. I mean, understandable, really. Listen, Orange County got the kind of new manager bump, which was kind of not a real new manager bump. It was just a manager moving on. But it felt like almost it looked like the players got a breath of fresh air, and not saying that like Morrison was bad, right? That's not his name. Oh my gosh, help me.
Morton Carlson? Wait, what?
Carlson. I just combined their names. Morton Carlson. I called him Morrison. What happened to me? What just happened? Morton Carlson. Not saying that he wasn't liked or disliked. In fact, I've heard very pleasant, wonderful things about him. But sometimes just having a new voice and just a new system really helps things out. And it really looked like Orange County was thriving from that. So, anybody?
I appreciated the David Bowie reference in there. So, purposefully or not, I appreciated it. I was singing it the rest of the whole video.
I aim to please.
Oh, wait, what was the David Bowie reference? I wasn't.
Starman.
Oh,
he's a Starman.
I did hear that actually. I see. Brain ain't.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't intentionally Bowie, but it's just like in my lexicon. So.
Oh man. Before we go on, I do want to throw this out. I didn't tell you guys to prepare this, but I just want to talk about it. Fire and Ice and Henny Darby were stunning last week. Just insane comeback from NoCo to like tie it up. And then Richmond get one of the all-time like best wins in, I'm just going to throw it out there, just USL history. If you throw in just, you concede the late equalizer, your biggest rivals celebrate in front of your fans. And then last kick of the game, you get a goal. Also, the first goal being Emilio Terzagi's first goal of the season was just so cool. The Henny Derby stole the show as it should. It was as perfect of a national debut for the rivalry that the league and either team could have ever wished for. It was perfect. But not to be outdone, I mean, NoCo and Fuego put on an absolute show that same night.
Well, both of these games were decided by goals in 90+11. Like, that's ridiculous. And with the Henny Derby game, you got to say Madison did look good and they generated a lot of chances. But Richmond in that back three did what they needed to do. They got in position at the end to set up Neil Vinyals with that free kick. Shout out to Chandler Adebayo for scoring. But I mean, it's kind of a lesson in being efficient, making the most of your chances. It's what you need in an emotional derby game. So full credit to them on that national stage. Like, incredible to see.
Also, oh, Ryan, you were going to say something?
No, it was just that it's like that was basically as cathartic of a victory you could get for the Richmond Kickers as possible for a team that they had not beaten in over 600 days. To do it in such highlight reel fashion that you saw, it had to be like among the greatest feelings for the season for Richmond.
And I kind of talked about it when we talked about the experience last week. Man, they zoomed in on Elliot Yogi, known on the Twitter streets, and like he's shirtless. He's taking his shirt off. He has the Mr. Henny Derby. They're giving him the trophy on national television, and it was just everything about it was just so good. And if this is what we are getting out of CBS, if we are getting these intense storytelling of telling not just the players on the pitch and why they're important, and this match is more than a rivalry, it's actually a battle for the playoffs, and here's how these teams got here, but saying why each fan is important, the stories of the fans, and talking about how this league is so much deeper and so much richer than the years may say it is. I was so just stunned by what CBS did. And if that's what we're getting, hey, listen, USL, I know you got to get the bag. But don't leave this. Stay with CBS forever if this is what we're going to continue to get. Anyway, by the way, if you didn't see the game-tying goal for Northern Colorado, oh my God, just a banger, top of the box or just outside of the box. There's nothing better, I think, than a bar down goal. Any goal that you score is, if I see that's bar down, it's instant like extra 10 points in my book. That is just a good goal. It was just such a good finish. And if you're Northern Colorado, you're obviously very happy about it. Fuego cannot get a result to save their life. And I know coming into this, if you told Fuego you're walking away with a point, they'd be happy. But the way it happened, they're obviously not pleased at all. But man, Fuego cannot catch a break. But NoCo is legit right now after taking a while to figure it out. All right, let's get into the predictions. Why don't we? First up, this one's weird for me. I'm still not used to Ben Pierman being in Charleston because I almost brought up DCFC versus Memphis 901, and I almost talked about Ben Pierman going back to Detroit City, but he's already done that this year. But hey, this is a Detroit City team who got a result, kind of, lost all 3 points late to a very good Tampa Bay team. But, they're taking on a Memphis team who we just saw in the USL Tactics show. They stumbled, and boy, did they stumble hard. Can Detroit City do it for a full 90 minutes plus stoppage time versus Memphis, or can Memphis get it back on track? John?
I have this one going down as a draw. I think Memphis, in terms of how they play offensively, in terms of their pressure, I think they're well set up to attack Detroit. I think that Detroit is probably going to give Elvis Samo 90 minutes as a starter in this game, and that's going to make a real difference. He's a handful for any back line. There's just something about Memphis where maybe it's put up or shut up. They know they need a result after the shellacking they got last weekend. So I think they come out inspired, but it ends up splitting the points.
Alan?
Yeah, this was a tough one, but I think Keyworth is going to be, for the exact reason John was talking about, is, I think they're close to getting something against, they're going to really want something against 901, and that maybe Keyworth pulls in an extra goal to steal or not steal, but keep 3 points for this one. So I went with DC.
Yeah, Alan speaks to how crucial that Keyworth is as a stadium for Detroit. If you look at the 5 all-time meetings of this matchup, while Detroit has yet to beat Memphis in a game, Memphis has not gone into Keyworth and walked away with all 3 points. And even then, Memphis this year has just 2 wins away from home this season. None of their previous 3 road games were a win. I have this down as a draw because I think Memphis can really frustrate Detroit, but it really is that home field advantage that makes it such a tough place to go into and play.
Ryan, I promise you I want to get my predictions to you right after this. I haven't done it. But in case you did not know, Detroit City's women's team has made it to like the conference finals, and that is happening right after this match. So I feel like, the atmosphere is going to be crazy for the women's game, which is going to be awesome. But I also think that's going to feed into the men's atmosphere. I think Detroit City is going to be absolutely buzzing. I am taking Detroit. Next up, speaking about a fan base that's absolutely buzzing, Indy 11. Hey, how you doing, kids? You have to come back and play against the people's champs, my champs, Loudoun United, who, hey, my God, Loudoun just will never lose again. But Indy is going to be loud. They are going to be proud, and those fans are 100% going to show up after an emphatic win tonight.
I can't believe how excited I am for this matchup. Like, what a game of two teams in form. Indy, they do have the downside, right? Of they just had this emotional high. They've got to get back up for Saturday. You know they're going to be tired because they hardly changed the lineup from that Rhode Island game to this. Loudoun, meanwhile, attacking like nobody's business. I love the shape that Ryan Martin's got them in. Riley Boudoir also named to the New Zealand Olympic team. That's amazing to see for him. I just think Loudoun has the goods. I think the way that they can get into that 3-2-5 and attack is going to give Indy troubles. If Indy makes one mistake when their center backs are stepping up and being as bold as they are, that's going to spell trouble against this Loudoun team. So a win for Loudoun United for me.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 days between games for Loudoun. I think we've seen some of the issues with Indy 11 when they are tired or injured. Maybe not playing to the same level they can play when they're at full capacity. So I went with Loudoun on this one because I just think they might have the legs to run over Indy 11.
Yeah, I backed Loudoun on this one, and this isn't meant to be as a slight towards Indy 11. It really is down to tiredness. One pause I do have with a little bit with Loudoun is that they only have one win away from home all season, but just given the run of form that Loudoun has been on recently, it's 6 matches unbeaten, and all 4 wins that they've had in that time have been shutout results. It's been a really impressive kind of turnaround for this team. I think this is going to be a really fun one. I have it down as both teams to score in this one, but I think Loudoun ultimately prevail in the end.
See, I want to take Loudoun because I feel like all things considered with the way that they're attacking, it's so free-flowing. I think that they're going to be able to really take advantage of what Indy's doing. Plus, Indy has extra minutes on the leg that we've already mentioned. But, man, there's something about Indy going back home, right? And it just feels like any kind of tiredness, you're just going to be so rejuvenated about being back in front of your home fans after your first win, I think, against an MLS team ever.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to go with Indy. I love Loudoun. I absolutely love what they're doing. I'm just going to take the emotional side of this game and say that I'm going with Indy, to be honest. Speaking of emotional ties, I'm already emotional about this one. Birmingham taking on the Switchbacks of Colorado. Birmingham Legion, who have lost lately, and they have lost big. I don't want to see Ben's name pop up in the chat. Thanks. Love you, Ben. But Colorado, whom I've said this every single time we've talked about them, they are so much better than I thought they would be preseason. They're so much better than you thought they would be preseason. And, you know, can Birmingham get right, or can Colorado really keep, their push to the playoffs going?
No, I mean, this is a Colorado Springs team that has been so good defensively since that rough start to the year. It was kind of this 4-game stretch out of the gates where they couldn't figure anything out. And then James Chambers stabilized the shape, stabilized the team selection. They're playing very confident soccer. They know their patterns, how they want to build out. I think the Legion against a team that isn't like a steamroller in the way that Charleston can be is well set up to defend what the Switchbacks want to do to you. At the same time, like, there's just something about this Legion team that tells me they're going to come out fighting in this one and they're going to get a big home win.
Alan?
I went with a draw just because I needed to mix some stuff up, and I am going the way of Phoenix Rising right now in the standings of not doing well. I'm going to fire my picking coach. So I just wanted to mix some things up. I went with the draw, not because I don't believe in Birmingham and what they can do, but more so I think the way things have been going for me. I'm like, if I pick a winner, they're going to lose or they're going to draw. So I'm just going to go and cut to the chase and pick one draw this week.
I legitimately respect playing the game on this one. Ryan.
Yeah, admittedly, this was probably my toughest match to kind of pick with this one. Birmingham in their last 6 have 3 wins and 3 defeats. And like 5 of those games have seen over 1.5 goals in it. And I just, Colorado Springs going away from home, they just have 2 victories away from Colorado Springs this year, and one of them being up against Hartford. So they can have the ability to go cross-conference across the country and go out and get a result. But with no wins in their last 3 road games, it was really tough for me to pick Colorado Springs in this one. So I settled on a draw.
Okay, so this is where I do have to get emotional ties out of this one because everything is telling me that Birmingham should win this game because I believe in, kind of what they're doing. And I despite the losses, I do believe that they're going to come out hot. They're going to be coming out on fire, the whole thing. But also, I'm ready to be hurt again. This is so dumb. I have a feeling that they might hold back in this match because of their match on Wednesday afterward of former assistant coach Conno Smith coming back to town just a few days later. And there's a weird 40 chess thing that's happening in my head that I'm a little worried that Birmingham is going to overthink it. I'm just going to blindly say Birmingham because I'm going to be a homer, but I don't really believe in it at all. All right. Let's go ahead and go to what is probably the match of the weekend. And that is going to be the fun Twitter wars, the championship belt, the top of the table. Gio, post the meme, not the mac and cheese take. Don't ever post that one again, even though I agree with you. Greenville versus Omaha.
You agree with the mac and cheese is bad take?
I haven't had a mac and cheese that lives up to the hype of mac and cheese.
SpongeBob shaped mac and cheese.
Or a good baked mac and cheese with a breadcrumb topping. You've not had a mac and cheese that satisfies you?
I'll eat it. I will eat it because I don't want to make my grandma mad or sad. I'm not going to do that, but
this is pain.
I've never had a mac and cheese that I'm just heck yeah, mac and cheese. Thank God I had that tonight.
All right, go with God on that one. Unfortunately, I'm rewarding Gio for starting this nonsense because I'm picking Greenville and I'm locking them to win this game. If you look at what Greenville is doing, not only is it McKinnon, who is pacing the league in terms of XG and XA, Sebastian Velasquez is coming up huge creatively. Ben Zakowski, as that unsung supporting player, has been immense. They're really a kind of a hydra in attack, and they back it up with a very strong defensive structure, regardless of shape. I think they're going to give Omaha fits at the back, frankly. I trust Omaha a lot. Dom Casciato, for me, is probably the best manager in the league. I've come around on the Triumph in a big way, and I think they make a statement here, especially after that pretty unlucky loss to Lexington last time out.
Yeah, I just went with the home team on this one. I think this is a big game that both teams are going to be up for, and so I think there is something to be said about playing at home versus on the road for this one. And so I went with a little bit more of a traditional approach of I like their color jersey kind of deal of picking the home team to win because I think it will have an effect on how this game goes.
I think it's crazy insane that this is our first Greenville-Omaha matchup of the season. And even more insane is that it's been 756 days since Greenville last beat Omaha in a match. That was back to June in 2022 when Jurassic World Dominion was still the #1 film in theaters. I still think the Greenville right that historical precedent and end it after 756 days and finally get a result over Omaha. So I'm picking them to win this weekend.
The most shocking part of that was that Dominion was ever #1 in the movie theaters.
2 weeks in a row, baby.
I was gonna say the difference between this match and that movie is that you'll remember this one after a week.
Most shockingly, Dominion unseated Top Gun Maverick as number
Wow.
1, which is
That's
surprising to me.
Unbelievable. I'm taking Omaha. I think this one's going to be close. I do believe in what Greenville is doing. I also think that Omaha has a bit of what we talked about earlier, the Phoenix villain in them. I feel like they're a team that really thrives off going away from home. And I do believe in the system that they have. Their players are quality. And, you know, you mentioned Liam McKinnon. There's someone who can neutralize him, and that's a man named Nuhu. Like,
That's a good point.
I trust in what Omaha's doing, even though I do trust in what Gio is cooking up there. I want him to be able to post the meme again. I'm going with Omaha. Let's see. Last but not least, we talked about him earlier today. How is it going to go? I think we kind of already previewed it. Lexington versus Tormenta.
You're never gonna believe it, but I have Tormenta winning this game. I mean, I talked a lot about Lexington. What you like about Tormenta is that Jake Dengler is a brick wall. Preston Kilween is an amazing passer out of the back, and you're really matching that with Callum Stretch on the other side. I think you look at guys like Jackson Corey or Ajimir Spengler, who have been quite unlucky in front of net. I think Tormenta is due for a big game, and who better to get a result against than Lexington?
I'm sorry, Mike.
I went with Lexington on this one. I'm just kidding. I did not. Let's not be crazy. I went with Tormenta.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we previewed it earlier in the show. I think it's really hard to pick Lexington. Regardless of what they're doing in the Jägermeister Cup, they're 7 games without a win in the league. They won their second match of the year and haven't won a league game since, so I'm backing Tormenta.
So, believe it or not, I did have an issue with picking this one. And it kind of comes down to who's in net for Tormenta. I think that what they were doing with Ford Parker was really, really good. I think what they had rolling with him was fun. I think that they were getting good results with him in net. Meanwhile, when they've had Drew Romig, hasn't been so hot. He hasn't been able to stop as many. I think I'm going with Lexington on the basis of Romig and net, which doesn't really show you how much confidence I have in Lexington, just really the lack of confidence. And frankly, still a young goalkeeper in Drew Romig.
I do want to say, like, if there is a Pittsburgh of League One, it's Tormenta in terms of good defense, can't finish. So,
yeah, right. Fair enough. All right. That is all of the predictions. That is all of the planned conversations. Do we have any other just kind of USL thoughts going around the brains right now?
Yeah, it's great to see Nick Moon out on the pitch again and scoring a goal for Tampa Bay. I know that Kaler probably got a little man crush happy with that one, but it's good to see. It's good to see him back out there. I think I tweeted about it too. It's he's been out for quite some time, but I think it just adds to the amount of firepower Tampa Bay has, which is insane. But it's nice to see a guy like that back out scoring.
I love Nick Moon. Everybody knows this. I absolutely love Nick Moon. Kind of just some fun stuff, I suppose. Tomorrow, the US we're releasing an interview with Joel Nash, who does a lot of the pre-professional stuff with the USL. So that should be coming out. So preview on basically W League semifinals, I think technically, and then the League 2 playoffs that are upcoming, and just kind of how this season went, just a full-on recap of everything. So that should be a lot of fun. we're going to talk about it I'm sure, because shameless plug, and it's going to be in the link in the description by the USL show scarf to get us out to Oakland. Oh my God, the closer we get to Oakland, the more and more excited I get, because this Oakland team's really, really good. Like really, really good. And everything's shaping up to just be really fun. So that's kind of USL thought for me.
Yeah, one more real quick. Just going to plug the work of the good folks at PHNX. Owen just put out a very in-depth article about everything regarding the Phoenix Rising situation. I retweeted it, but definitely give it a click to, for one, like catch up on the situation, and two, support what I would probably call the best independent media covering the league right now and covering a specific club right now. So kudos to everything they're doing.
All right. Final thoughts for the night. Ryan, let's start off with you.
Yeah, so over the previous holiday weekend, I was able to go back to Wilmington for a little bit. I watched the Fallout show, but very good, but not the main part of this tangent. When I came back, my air conditioning unit is somehow just like not working. And for whatever reason, not running it for 4 days has caused it to not work. So I've been running the AC here for about 6 hours, and the room temperature in my apartment has gone from 78 degrees to a balmy 79 degrees running the air conditioning. So when the maintenance person came through today, he said everything's working fine and then left. So, just kind of struggling over here with the air conditioning.
Ryan, I'm going to skip over Alan and John real fast and just go ahead and do my parting words, because mine was going to be the same. Our air conditioning went out for 3 days this last week, and a couple nights ago, we went out at 9:45 to Lowe's and bought a window unit because we were suffering. It got up to I think it was 84 degrees, and it was 10 o'clock at night. And we're just like, we're going to Lowe's. We'll drop the $300 something. We'll worry about the financial hit later. We can't sleep. Yeah, no, I hope that they fix it soon, because if it goes on longer than a day, it's so miserable. So plus window units, if you can get a cheap one, they're legit $100 and they're the best. So don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. Window unit recommend.
Alan?
Yeah, it's been really, really hot right now. It's 71 degrees. And
This guy.
It gets warm here. We need ACs in San Diego from time to time. No, I just had family out recently, so I've been able to run amok a little bit, but now I'm kind of settling back in. I don't have any fun shows to point out, but I have been sewing quite a bit lately, and so I've been getting it. Pride is crazy in San Diego because they moved it to July because June gloom is a thing. So people who visit San Diego don't know that it's not always sunny, and it's May gray, June gloom. There's just this marine layer. It's not sunny sometimes. It's cloudy. It's great because it keeps it cool. That's why it's cool. But out of towners why isn't it sunny? It's summertime. You're read anything about Southern California. But I've been sewing, and Pride is coming up, so I've made some stuff to wear to Pride, and so San Diego gets 2 full months of Pride, so we're excited about that. So I've just been sewing. So I've been putting on old episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race and rewatching them while I make outfits.
Love it.
I had no idea that Pride was in July in San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, crazy.
So what are you sewing, by the way?
I just finished some hoodies, ironically, to give away. My sister-in-law came in and was I want one, so I made her a hoodie. I made a kind of a skirt, a bag, and I'm in the middle of making another wrap skirt. So I have some it's literally, my computer's literally sitting on some fabric right now. So yeah, I've been trying to try something new. I've been making hoodies a lot and shirts and stuff. So I've been making some skirts. Why not?
Why not? John?
Yeah, I mean, a downgrade from Alan here, but the Gladiator 2 trailer came out today, and we have never been more back. Everything about it looks just perfect.
shout out to Ridley Scott, who's like a million years old and just makes like a 3-hour movie every single year just because he can. And this one's like about gladiators, and Denzel Washington sounds like a New York cop, but he's like a traitor. Like, it's all going to be good. I'm so here for it.
It's okay. So I haven't seen it, but I've seen people talk about how there's like, I don't know if it's a meme because I haven't watched it, but apparently there's like boat scenes like in the middle of the call. Is that real?
They actually did that. That's like a real thing the Romans did. And we are on dog alert. If you are not on the screen
Dog
right now,
alert.
you are missing out.
Yeah, 125.05. You can check out a very cute dog. So I did know
back to the subject of Rome. Like, the Romans had very advanced plumbing and water within the city of Rome. Like, the hills helped out with that. The aqueducts obviously are very famous. So they would just like fill the Colosseum with water and do mock naval battles because they were that opulent.
this is such a stupid question because I knew that I heard kind of loosely, but I don't know how the battles went. Did they go to death, or was this like a battleship thing where it's like, oh no, I sunk and that was it?
I don't know about that, but that's a great question.
All
Did
I'm
they
hearing
have
is
window?
that
Did they have window AC units?
Apparently not. Right.
all I'm hearing is that all our stadium coliseums these days have downgraded if we can't occasionally flood the field and do naval battles in it. Like, I want to see a naval battle take place in MetLife Stadium.
We used to be a country.
I'm just imagining if it goes to death, right? I mean, how deep could these things be? Like, are we talking like a couple of feet kiddie pool level? Because imagine sinking to your death in a kiddie pool. That's messed up. Like, that's probably the worst way to go. Send me to the lions.
Don't they do that in Treasure Island? Like, have like a full on like ship that. So I mean, like, there's some of that. There's like an element of that in Vegas if you want to go that far.
Ryan, to go to your point, here's how, instead of penalties this year, we flood the pitch of wherever it's going to be. We put up a giant shield. The coaches put up their teams in tactical positions, and we just play a big game of Battleship.
I mean, this is up there with my idea to combine the sports of hockey and water polo, where you slowly turn up the heat in the arena so that the ice melts. So by the third period, you're now playing water polo.
There we go.
Second period sucks. You're just having to skate through slush.
Yeah.
Brutal. All right. Hey, listen, go check out Goals TV. Go check out the Patreon, patreon.com/the USL show. Go to All of New York and check out our scarf. We're going to post that all on the socials this week. We got a lot of fun stuff in the works. We're going to post it all on the socials. If you aren't following us on Twitter, X, whatever it is, follow us on there at the USL show, and make sure you support the biggest league in the world, because it is that season, US Open Cup season, where we can have truly the most fun. But thank you all so much for following along. Thank you all so much for listening. And for the last time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL show.
The USL show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.